The Renault 5 was launched in the 70s, and this is the Renault's take on that old design. And you can see the lineage, but of course it has been modernized quite a lot. You can see this pearlescent yellow metallic paint that looks really unique. Not that much metallic flakes in it, makes it pop a lot. And you can see the design here in the front, the indicator lights here, and of course the Renault logo here in the front. You even have a little detail on the hood, which before was a fuel gauge or something, air intake, but here it is to see what charge you have on your battery. Well, this is the highest spec engine that you can get, which gives you 150 horsepower and of course over 200 newton meters, about 245, 250 newton meters. It gives a claimed here 200 kilometers an hour time in around 9 seconds, which of course is not the quickest. And of course you have no frunk here, just all the electrical components. But if you compare it to a Mini Cooper, it might not have the most amount of horsepower, but compared to a Peugeot, Fiat or even an Opel, this is plenty of horsepower. Go for the lesser spec, of course you get about 135, 120 horsepower and 40 kilowatt hour. So this with a higher spec gives you 52 kilowatt hour, which gives you a claim range of just above 400 kilometers. But this is of course a city car, not meant to be driven that long. But if you need to, you will of course have to charge it, which we'll talk about in just a second. And price point, well, the base specs cost around 350,000 Swedish kronor, which is around 32,000 euros. This with the bigger battery and so on and so forth costs around 400,000 Swedish kronor, which is around 37,000 euros. That is an interesting price point. The interesting design follows here in the rear. You can see the very angular rear lights, the 5 name, the 5 logo, and of course the boot space, which we'll show right now. So if I open it up here, it's not electrically operated, it's just regular hand powered. 326 liters of storage space, very deep, not the biggest of course. This is a small car with a battery underneath in the skateboard configuration. Everything's just low down, and yeah, this is where you are starting to notice things, that this is a small car. And welcome to the rear seats here, and you can see how high my knees are, and there's not that much low thigh support and no foot space. I do just fit with my head, but to the side there is a very limited amount of space. So very cramped back here, but the floor is at least flat. Welcome to the interior of the Renault 5, and what a interior it is. It is stylish and it is certainly unique, but there are not that many specific details that you think this is just too much. The design has not gone overboard. Yes, there is some homage to the old Renault 5, but all in all it's a very futuristic design while still being very usable. The seats are in fabric, but you can see the color scheme, the yellow with the gray, and the 5 as well. They're very comfortable. The side support is just enough to keep you in place, but it's soft, and a lot of lower back support as well. The manual controls for the climate control, love that detail. Buttons on the steering wheel to control the cruise control, to select the different views and information on the digital gauge cluster, and as well of course the infotainment system. 2 screens in total, very sharp, very crisp, Google based. The navigation is of course Android Auto, so it's quick, efficient, responsive. There's basically nothing to complain about. You have almost everything that you need or require through your infotainment system, of course, but this is more of a simple car, I feel like, where the infotainment system and the digital gauge cluster is there to give you the necessary information. Charging this car up at home, at work, and sometimes if you need to drive a little bit longer. But all in all, a fantastic, usable, stylish interior. If there's one thing that I should complain about, is the gear shift selector, the one up top here. If you're driving forward and want to reverse and you are putting it into reverse, sometimes it doesn't engage. You have to be almost fully stopped before you can engage reverse and then go back. So there have been plenty of times that I've been in a hurry, just want to get out of sticky situations. That has not been possible. So this has been quite a frustration during my time with the car. The amount of storage space that you have is also quite limited. Underneath your armrest here you have a very minute amount of space here, 2 cup holders, the wireless charging pad, which is very easily accessible. I like that. They have a little storage bin here as well, and of course on the sides. But the side is very, very shallow all in all. So not that much storage space here, but mind you, it's a small car, take it for what it is. The sound system in this car is phenomenal. Harman Kardon, and this has a lot of bass, a lot of clarity, but for my liking, a lot of warmth to the sound in general. You can tune it through the infotainment system, of course, as well, but a phenomenal sound system that stands out in comparison to a lot of other cars, makes and models as well. A lot of fabric, a lot of plastic all around, a little bit better here in the front than in the rear, but definitely there have been corners cut or choices done throughout the interior to make it cheap where you will not think about it. For example, the parking brake, that is the same that you can see in a 2012 Renault Clio, for example. Driving the Renault 5 and wow, such a refined experience. Was I expecting something else perhaps? Maybe not, because an electric car is often or almost always soft, smooth, quiet. And of course that should also be the case with this Renault 5. This is not the base spec, this is one of the highest spec, which means that you do have some extra horsepower and of course some extra battery size, which makes it weigh a little bit more. But the weight does not intrude into the driving experience at all. This is certainly a little bit stiff car, but it is well damped, and especially on highways when you're driving long distances, you do not get tired. I think that's thanks to a good suspension tuning, but also very, very nice seats. They are super, super comfortable. And this Renault 5 has been on the waiting list for a lot of buyers, and I can see why. It has tons of character, it drives beautifully, good enough size of a battery, good enough charging speeds, and the tech inside to justify buying this instead of, for example, a Mini Cooper, which is one of the biggest competitors to this Renault 5, I think. So let's switch from comfort to sport, and everything turns red. The steering is slightly heavier. Speaking of the steering, before I start driving a little bit quicker, turning radius is phenomenal in this car. It's very agile, and you notice that this is a small car. You can place it differently, it's easy to park, the turning radius makes it easy to navigate tight parking spaces. It's a city car with the possibilities to drive a little bit longer. The charging speeds are perhaps not the best. 10, 20 to 80% in about 30 minutes is not groundbreaking, but not completely poor either. When you start to drive a little bit quicker, get some floatiness to it when you drive straight, but when you load up the front, you get a lot of feedback through the steering wheel, and it loads up very nicely here. While you sense that it has some weight to it, it's not the same weight as a 100 kilowatt hour battery. It is still fairly light, fairly agile, and it doesn't need 3, 4, 5, 6, 800 horsepower to make this go and have fun as well. Of course, it's not a R5 or a Turbo 5 or whatever you want to call it, but it's still decently fun on a back road. This is in a very, very nice price segment. that is cheaper than the competitors, the Mini Cooper. And I think it's much more characterful than electric Peugeot or Opel, for example, and definitely more characterful than the new Fiat 500e. The Megane E-tech, the electric Megane, was a decent car, but it was in the size and price that made it difficult to maybe justify buying compared to other established electric car models. This is a very interesting size of an electric car that I think Renault has hit the absolute sweet spot with the size, the performance, and especially the design, both outside, inside, and then come up with a level of refinement and engineering that becomes an added bonus. Compared to other Renault products, this feels like such a jump in terms of the refinement, the quality, the tech, everything basically. What about the new Renault 5? Is it a smash hit? Is it somewhere in the middle? Is it a car that you should forget, or a car that you should seriously consider in this size? And if you want an electric car, well, I definitely think that this is one of the most interesting cars in the last couple of years. Renault has clearly outdone themselves. The design, the interior, the focus on details that actually matters, and with a price that makes it very competitive. Well, it doesn't have the best charging speed. Well, does that really matter? When you look at the whole big picture, it brings enough to the table and then some in the important areas that actually matters. This is a phenomenal car that Renault should be really proud of.